Hi, I'm Pete, and welcome to Just a Few Acres Farm. In this video, I got two big topics. What is the restoration project for this winter? And what am I going to do about my new shop? I'm going to do a lot of yakking in this video. I'm sorry for those who are people of action, but I got a lot of explaining to do. It'd help if I hooked up the battery now. Here you go. Now we know the tires are not loaded. Good deal. More air out, flatten the tires some more. Discussion topic number one. This is my Farmall 856 tractor made in 1969. It's about 100 horsepower. I absolutely love driving it. I bought it last summer off a nice older gentleman who'd had it for quite a while. And I plan on doing what I'll call a refresh of this winter. And I don't know if I'll finish it this winter, but it's really no rush. By refresh, I mean I'm not going to tear it all down like I did, say, the Super C. The engine runs great in it. Barely smokes, slight haze from far away that you can see out of the pipe. Starts easy, sounds nice. So I'm not going to get into the engine. I do need to get into the transmission because it's got shifting issues. The transmission brake doesn't work. So we're going to tear this all down. I'm going to strip it down to just the bare powertrain, and we're going to get into the transmissions and fix those. The whole front end needs to be rebuilt. The kingpin bushings, the bearings, the hubs, the tires, everything needs to be gone through in that. I got all the parts back on the other side of the shop. And once I get it stripped down to the powertrain, then probably what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it back outside, pressure wash it down real good, degrease it real good, clean up the powertrain, paint that, and then I can pull it around into the equipment shed, just the bare powertrain, and then all the pieces that go back on, I can bring in here and paint them in batches. I do have a plan. I've been thinking about this for a couple of months. Topic number 2, the new shop, which I've also been thinking about for more than a couple months. First, let's go through our inventory. What do we have now? I've got this workshop here, which is 18 foot wide by 24 foot long by about 8.5 feet clear inside. The door is 7 feet tall. That's the tallest door you can really fit without going to great gymnastics in a ceiling height like this. Next to it, I have what is our old car garage, which is 2 bays that are 12 foot wide each by 24 foot long. There's a stairway up to the upstairs in the back, and upstairs has been a catch-all for years, but Hillary and I are taking care of that. Here's the inside of that garage portion. Yes, we used to park both our cars in here back in our old jobs, but that changed with the farm because we needed space for all of our freezers. So one bay is completely filled with freezers, and part of another bay here is filled with freezers. And the rest of that other bay is where my wood shop's kind of been shoved in here. It used to occupy the mechanics bay, and I used to do a lot of woodworking, but that moved out when I started doing more tractor work. Now let me take you upstairs in the garage. This is a nice big space. It's 24 foot wide by 28 foot long. It's got an 8 foot ceiling at the edges, but it's cathedraled with scissor trusses up to, I think, 12 foot in the center. Nice natural light. And I originally put this on here when I built the garage because I thought if any of the kids hung around after they got out of high school or college, this could be kind of an apartment for Hillary and I upstairs in the garage. But I'm starting to have other ideas about what this could be. Hillary and I are in the middle of cleaning all this out. You wouldn't believe it, but this is pretty clean compared to the way it is. We've been hauling loads to the dump, to the recycling center, to Goodwill, and to the scrap yard, and we will get all this cleaned up. We're just in the middle of the process right now. Next, we have the old pole barn. It is 36 foot deep by 80 foot long. As you know, our cattle used to be in here and our pigs too, but we went through this massive reconfiguration this summer. And this has now become the equipment shed that all the tractors are stored in, all the miscellaneous things that we need for our farming operation. Lastly, this is our upper barn. The original 50 foot by 80 foot by 16 foot clear inside pole barn, with a 20 foot by 40 foot cattle pen addition on the one side, used for hay storage and to house the cattle in the wintertime. Late last summer, I started talking about building a new shop as a way to kind of ease into my retirement and transition to more mechanical work, which I enjoy doing, especially in the winter months. And the place that I thought of putting it was here where our existing garden is. It fits within this plot. I talked about building a 40 by 60 foot shop with a 16 foot high clear ceiling, big door in the front, you know, one of those nice Cadillac shops in this part of the garden. But as Hillary and I talked about it and thought about it more, we wondered, that's our kitchen window back there, and we look out this way a lot because our view is out this way. It's really nice. We can see the weather coming and the animals sometimes, and the trees are nice in the summer, and the garden's nice to look at. We began to think, well, we really don't want to look at a giant metal box right in the middle of our primary view. The other thing about putting the shop in the garden was I spent years and years amending this soil, picking rocks. It tills really nice now, and probably another thing I'd like to get into more in my retirement is keeping the garden. So we began to think of other spots, and I printed out a site plan of our farm and cut out a little box that was 40 by 60 and started plopping it here and there, and this location right over here became more the preferred location. We'd have to take down a few trees, but the shop could sit right in here. There's easy access from the road for underground electric line. It would need its own electric service. It's right next to well water, so I could have well water there. And that seemed like the best spot. Anything that requires a boatload of money, in this case, 100 grand, I'll just throw that out. 40 by 60 shop, foundation work, concrete slab, electric, fit out on the inside, insulation, at least. You start thinking, well, what else could I do with that money? And you start looking at your existing assets, which I just ran through. What do we have? How can we work with that? And the reason I pulled this tractor in, the reason I picked this one to do out of all the tractors I have left that I would like to do work on is because it's the largest thing I'll ever pull in here. I'll never own a tractor bigger than this. I have no desire to. And if I can do this one in here with a little bit of smarts rather than just a ton of space, then I can work on anything in here. I think there's a reflex today when you do a job. A lot of people will say, you need a this, you need a that, you need a bigger shop, you need a taller door, you need a widget to do this one task one time, when in reality, it just takes a little bit of brain power to figure out how to work with what you have and save a ton of money in the process, rather than buying a tool that you use once every 5 years or building a space that you only need for some very limited task. And the fact is, this shop is very cozy. In other words, it heats up really fast. I can walk in here on the coldest day of the winter, turn on the heat, and it's 60 degrees in here within a half hour. Once I warm this shop up, it uses very little fuel to keep it warm. I had it going for 3 weeks working on the North Spreader. Constant heat set to 65 to 70 degrees. I burned between 10 and 15 gallons of propane the whole time. So it's very efficient. It's simple to light, very easy to light. Don't have to spend a lot of wattage to have good light in here. It's just crowded. Even though it's 18 foot by 24 foot, it's got this counter here, and I like a lot of counter space in my shop. There's the heater over there. It's a 25,000 BTU propane fired unit. And I've got, more counter space in the back and toolboxes, and I've got a big counter over here, and a lot of the space gets eaten up by just stuff that takes it up. Plus, although I enjoy doing mechanical work, I enjoy doing a lot of things. And before I did a lot of mechanical work, I was out here doing woodworking every weekend. So sort of shooting the whole wad on a giant mechanic shop went against a lot of the way that I've lived my life, which is finding ways to do things more cheaply and to still keep your options open, and to say, well, that $100,000 I was going to spend on a new shop, I could spend making what we have better with a whole lot of money left over. So Hillary and I started thinking along those lines, and we said, well, you could expand the shop into this garage. If these freezers went and the woodworking stuff had a place to go, you really could take the whole garage here, 28 foot long, 24 foot wide, as another shop. And the way I would use those is I would keep one side as a clean side shop and one side as a dirty side shop. So in the dirty side shop, I'd be doing welding, grinding, cleaning parts, painting, that sort of thing. It wouldn't have a lot of other stuff in it, so it's easy to clean up after that dirty work. And on the other side, I would have my tools, reassembly area, all that stuff. And all it requires is pulling out what I have in the other side and pulling it in here. And it's simple. There's lots of space in this garage, both downstairs and upstairs. And you may be saying to yourself, well, you got to park your cars in the garage. Keeping them outside really stinks. Hillary and I have talked about that a lot too. And contrary to a lot of folks, I guess, we don't really mind parking our cars outside. Yes, we got to clean the snow off of them a few times a winter, but that's really not a big deal. I am not convinced that cars last any longer kept inside than outside. The sun's not that bad here. We don't have hailstorms, sandstorms, any of that stuff. They just get some snow on them once in a while. The big thing is road salt, and they're going to rust inside or outside if they get road salt on them. Even taking cars out of the equation, we still have a space issue. We've got that bottom filled with freezers and woodworking stuff, and I'd like to get that stuff out of there. So that space I showed you upstairs, that nice big space, what a great woodworking shop. The only downside to that space upstairs, you got to go up and down the stairs, but I really don't view that as a deal breaker. My plan is to put a door in the second story there, like a 4-foot by 4-foot door. You see a lot of old barns that have those, and they had a pulley block and tackle above them to hoist stuff up into the top of the barn. With a bucket loader, I can put the woodworking stuff right in there, and that could probably be a very nice wood shop. Finish it out with drywall, insulate it, heat it, put electric up there. It's a pretty cool space. As to what to do with all those freezers, well, that would require some new space as far as I can tell. I think we'll need fewer freezers as we go forward, as we're gradually tapering down on the amount of livestock that we raise and bring to market. But the thing that makes the most sense to me right now is to build a lean-to or a shed addition off this side of the garage that would be a dedicated freezer room. And that's something that's small enough. It'd probably be 12 or 14 foot this way and 24 foot long this way, that my son Henry and I can build it without any problems at all. What I've outlined is the best course of action that we see so far, tossing around all the options that we've put on the table. The nice things about it are it doesn't cost us a lot of money. So that 100 grand, along with, and I didn't mention this, all the headaches that come with building a new structure, all the coordinating contractors, the upset, the moving stuff around, we avoid all that. And instead we can focus on taking care of what we have, which is, Hillary and I are in the middle of this giant clean out. We did it all last summer with the 2 pole barns, and now we're doing it upstairs and here. The house, we're just hoeing out stuff and making our life simpler by having less stuff. And so it kind of goes against the way we're thinking currently to have even more things to take care of. And that money that was going to be spent on that new shop will stay in the bank, and I can feel freer to spend part of it on, like, hiring somebody to paint this garage. The outside of it needs a coat of paint, and I probably would have faced doing that myself, but, you know, maybe I can spend the money to hire someone. Or if I need, you know, better lighting or toolboxes or tools for this and that, I've saved all that money that I was going to spend on a new shop. There's a few other options that we considered, but pretty rapidly took off the table. The old pole barn has 5 bays, and we thought briefly about converting 1 bay or 2 bays to repair area, but the old pole barn is not in very good shape. I haven't put any money into it really in years, and the roof leaks, and it's got all kinds of issues. So once we got into it, we'd kind of own the thing and have to put a lot of money in to making that what it is. And it's kind of out of the way. I wanted the shop to be someplace I could walk to the house and back from easily. That also takes the upper pole barn out of the work. Not only configuring it for a shop would be very difficult, given that it's hay storage and the cattle's home for the winter now, carving a chunk out of it and making a workshop would result in a weird configuration, but it's also a hike from the house up there in the middle of winter, and I like to have a short trip. This shop here is really not possible to add on to in any significant way outside the existing footprint. The roof slopes down this way, so as you go that way, you wind up getting lower and lower, and also the driveways come through here that go to the other barns, and adding on to the length of it doesn't work in the back really very well because the woodshed's back there and in the front, and that would just wind up looking goofy. So we've gone through all the options we can think of and settled right now on the one that I outlined. There you have it, tractor project for the winter and shop plans. Even though it's not a new shop, it's going to be pretty interesting because it requires building out spaces that are already standing in terms of what's over that way in the car garage and what's upstairs, and setting up the wood shop and building the addition for the freezers. It's not as flashy as a new shop, but I see new shops all over the place. And I like bucking the trend and really taking a close look at what's actually needed. And I've begun to see some of those shops as just a whole lot of money spent building it and a whole lot of cost to heat it and light it and pay property taxes on it, when maybe something smaller would do just as well. So that's the spirit I've always had on this channel, and for those of you that have been watching for a while, maybe you guessed this is the way I would go. For now anyway, till I change my mind. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time.